Welcome to our short Webinette on complaint management for medical device manufacturers. Let's get started.
Hey, hi everybody. My name is Lou Sanator, and I'm a solution engineer here at Compliance Quest. I want to thank everybody for coming to this webinar. Today we're going to be walking through a fairly simple use case with regards to complaint management, and we're going to talk about how an integrated QMS and ERP system, along with our partners at Rootstock, can help you reduce the friction of data access. So I'm going to jump into the demo right now, and we're going to start off with a customer complaint example. Okay, so for today's webinar, we're going to focus on a simple use case of managing customer complaints. I say simple, but it's really not that simple. In many cases, customer complaints come in a lot of different shapes and sizes for medical device manufacturers. There's different types of devices, class 1, class 2, and class 3. Different rules, different processes for handling each different type. As an example, consumer-based products like knee braces, customer complaints may come directly from those consumers, whereas more sophisticated implantable, surgically implanted devices, those complaints or issues may rise from the hospitals, medical centers, or even the doctors themselves. So really managing customer complaints is also really a team effort. And so on the front lines, you have the customer service team, which is intaking a lot of these different complaints. They then escalate those complaints into the quality unit, which also goes through the root cause investigation phase, as well as the regulatory unit, which is going to look at the reportability potential of each of these different complaints. So here we have an example. I thought we'd take an example of, let's say, a drug-coated medical device, let's say a stent, right, a drug-eluting stent. And so this complaint originated from a hospital. So we have a hospital system right here. They raised this complaint to the customer service team. And what they noticed was when they got a shipment, they did a visual inspection. And throughout that visual inspection, they noticed there was some hairline fractures and then some discoloration in a few of the different devices. So they raised this with the manufacturer, and this was logged as a case. So for those of you that are using Salesforce, obviously this is already integrated with our complaint management system. So this is not something that you have to go out and think about from an integration standpoint, which again looks towards easing that friction of data access and data integration. So this was escalated. You can see that the status of this case was escalated into a complaint. So we have both of the links right here. I'm going to drive into this complaint record, and we're going to take a look at what we've got over here. So here we have an in-progress complaint. So we've already had some activities. So typically what would happen in a complaint management process, again, this is going to differ based on the size of your organization, but these complaints that get raised from, let's say, the customer service team, they have to be evaluated. They have to be evaluated and vetted because you have to determine if it indeed is a complaint. In many cases, your customer service team are not experts in quality. Now, we try and arm them with as much information as we can, and being part of our team, we also ask them to collect as much information as we can. So we want them to help us by collecting things like who the customer was, maybe some product information, and as much detail about that issue as possible. This is really going to help that quality team assess this as they move throughout to ultimately resolve it and identify things like root cause. So let's just take a look at a couple of things that we've got going here on the screen. So in this complaint record, this is going to be your high-level data about the complaint. We've got report date, occurrence date, aware date. I see a link here to the source case, some information about the reporting customer. And if we scroll down here, we've got some information about the actual device. Now, you might be saying to me, that's great. There's one device, and I think we talked about this being a drug-coated or a drug-eluting stent. So what if there's multiple components or pieces, that comprise this overall product? Well, over here in our evaluation tab, we've got a couple of other pieces of information. So this is where I can start to tag this with defect information. You can see we have a product history review record created. We even have an investigation, but down below on the very bottom, we have what are called associated items. So in our world, in our system, we provide associated items, which give you the ability to associate one or more different components, products, to a particular complaint. And so because we're in progress here, we've got a couple of things. So let me draw your attention over here to the open activities. And so we're a process-driven, system, a workflow-based system. And as part of this overall process, I have to complete these 3 items before I can move on in the process. So I have a product history review here, I have an investigation record, and then I also have an FDA MedWatch. So for device companies, part of the regulatory reporting is determining who you have to report to, what type of report you have to submit, and what the time frame is. And so if I open up this simple task here called FDA MedWatch, we have this concept called perform CQ action. And when I open up this perform CQ action, it's actually going to drive right into a decision tree analysis. So these are all configurable options within the system. So you define what questions are asked, you define the order of those questions, and then how the reportability is defined. So as an example, here, this is a very basic question. Was there a death involved? By definition, you must report these to the FDA as an adverse event outcome. And so if I said yes and click next, the system is going to tell me that this is indeed a reportable event. Now, if I come back here for a moment and I click no, then that's going to tell me, okay, there's another question. So is this device sold and or marketed in the United States? So this is going to help me determine whether or not we have to submit an FDA 3500A MedWatch report. Now, I'm not going to go through all these details. Let's close out the decision tree analysis. But ultimately, once that's finished, it's going to generate different activities where I can submit a report, create a report, so forth and so on. For today's webinar, we're going to focus in on this product history review. And so in this case, let me go back here. I'm going to come over to the product history review over here. Let's open up that record. And you can see we have just a simple checklist of items. So this is where having that integration with your ERP system and our partners at Rootstock is really going to be beneficial, because they're going to have a tremendous amount of information that is specifically product related, as they're really the owner of the master product information. So I'm going to turn it over to Dave right now to kind of help us trace and track this product through. Let's just jump back over here and look at some of the product information that we have here. And Dave, can you kind of help us walk through where this product has been, who may have bought it, what orders it might be associated with, and help us determine if there might be a larger problem.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm David Burton with Rootstock. I'm a senior solution architect. And what I want to do is pick up where Lou left off. And we want to spend a couple of minutes and walk through and do some research on the particular product in question, the specific serial number in question, where it was sold, when it went out, when it was made, gathering all the information that we need to support processing this case that's come back from the field to determine what needs to be done. So let's go ahead and let's jump in, and let's go. We're going to look at what you're looking at right now is a home page within Rootstock. But we're going to use a capability within the Rootstock platform, which is called a search box, or search capability. This is like a global search. Think of this as a Google search across the Rootstock solution and across Compliance Quest as well, because they're installed together on the Salesforce platform. Well, what we can do is we're going to come in here and we're going to enter in a serial number. So let's say that we had a call that was associated. When that call came in and the case was created, clearly someone would have probably identified a serial number for that particular item, or that stent in this case that was an issue. And so we're just going to enter the serial number of that particular stent. So what's going to happen is we're going to hit return, and we're going to the software will actually go, because of the capabilities of the platform, it will actually go across the whole, think of it as the database, or the cloud segment that's dedicated to Rootstock and the Compliance Quest, and pick up every transaction that it finds that's related to this serial number. And that's important because just like if you did a Google search on the web and you went out and found everything that's associated with a particular item or a particular topic, this is similar in that way to how we would search the database for pertinent and related information. What we're really looking for comes up here on the very top. And what you see here is there's a sales order out here, 151207. And there's also a work order, a manufacturing work order, STN 4001, that are associated with this particular serial number. So the first thing we would probably do in a situation like this is I'm just going to open this up. I'm going to open up both of these in a separate window. But the first thing we would probably do is go in and let's just first determine this particular item, was it sold to the particular customer or client who came back with an issue. In this particular case, it was sold to Helpful Hospital Systems, which is consistent with what Lou was talking about just a few minutes ago. So that makes sense. So there were actually 2 units that were sold on May 18th. So let's go back. The next thing let's do is come in and let's drill down and look at the serial numbers. Because a lot of times what happens is you find a unit, there's an issue with that particular unit. Now let's go look at other associated units with that unit. Maybe they were in the same batch. In this particular case, we're looking at a work order in which this particular unit was manufactured. And that work order, there were 5 other units that were manufactured, you can see here on that work order. So if there's an issue with that one particular stent, there's a good chance that there could be an issue with the other 4 that were manufactured on it as well. So one of the things we might do is we might come down here and say, okay, show me the work orders, or show me the stents that were manufactured on that particular work order. And I can see every one of these serial numbers, all 5 serial numbers down here. And I would verify very quickly that the unit in question, 156281, was indeed on this particular work order. One of the things I would probably do as part of that process is come back and track down these other 4 stents. Are they still in inventory? Have they been shipped to another customer? I would go through a similar type of process where I would just do a search on these different serial numbers up here, just like you saw me do a minute ago. But another thing we might want to do while we're here as well is we might want to say, okay, what was used in the manufacture of these components? Because that could be an interesting clue to us as to what might be the root cause of the problem here. So let's come in here. For example, that's a drug-coated stent. So the particular drug that was coated onto that stent in manufacturing is called ACS 0001. And for all 5 of those stents that were produced on that particular work order, they were all coated with a drug that came out of that particular lot number in this case. So this was a drug that was a liquid drug that was in this particular lot number, and as all 5 of those units were manufactured, they were coated with the drug out of this lot. So one of the things we might want to do is just to say, well, the first thing we want to do is go back and see maybe where this came from. So let's just take this information, let's copy it, let's bring it up here to the top. We're just going to do a quick cut and paste. And now, first thing the system does, even before I do a search, it says, well, here's the inventory information on this particular lot right here. So instead of doing that global search, I'm just going to drill down right here. And so now what it's going to do is the system will come back now and give me a page for this particular item, this particular drug, but this particular lot number of that drug. So one of the things I can see now is everywhere that drug was transacted in that lot. So let's roll through and start looking at that very quickly. But one of the first things we see here is that it came in on this particular purchase order, PO 01740. So if I choose to, I could come in here, I can open that purchase order, and I can very quickly see who the vendor was that provided that product. So we'll see here that this came from a company called National Supply. We bought 50 milliliters of that particular product that came in, looks like on 5/14. So now the next thing that we want to do is we want to come back and we want to say, let's just verify where that was used. So it looks like that particular drug was used on a work order STN 4001, and that particular drug was also used on another work order STN 4002. So in all those cases, if I thought that that drug might be the culprit in this investigation, I want to go back and look at the particular product that was made on those two work orders, and then track that down to figure out, is it still in inventory, or if it was sold, who was it sold to, so I can proactively track down that product before there might be a potential issue with it elsewhere. Now, the other thing we want to think about for a minute, let's say we go through, we do our investigation, we track down the drug, we decide maybe the drug's not the problem. Let's say, for example, maybe it was a packaging issue. The packaging that the product was originally placed in was not, didn't wear well, didn't sit well in inventory. So maybe the internal product in the package was damaged. So what we want to be able to do now is say, maybe we need to go back and we just need to change the packaging that's associated with the product. So let's talk about that for a minute and how we might make that work. So one of the things that Rootstock gives you the ability to do is to control items, to control products by revision level. So, and you see right here, this is our particular end level stent product that we sell. And right now, it's on its third revision, which is the third one right now is about to be revision 30. The one that actually was manufactured, and you see here the effective revision that's in production right now is 20. So we're going to produce, in this case, let's say, a new revision that we'll call 30, because we need to change the packaging. And let's look at what we did here. So let's drill down into that for a minute. And we'll see here that what we're adding with revision 30 is we're going to change the packaging to polypropylene. And what we're deleting as part of revision 30 is we're removing the old packaging, which we think may be the issue, which was cellophane. And what you'll notice here is this revision 30 is pending. So that means it's not in production yet. This is just our proposal to address the issue that we found with this particular product. Rootstock gives you the ability to go through and do a whole ECO process if you choose to. So you see up here at the top, if we had run this through an ECO process, you would see an ECO number up there when that was approved, and only when that ECO was approved would revision 30 go into what's called an implemented state, which means that that now becomes the effective bill of materials that we will produce against. So Lou, I'm going to turn it back to you. I think we've gone through, we found out everywhere this product was transacted, probably have an idea of what we need to do, and now we'll just figure out where we need to go from there.
Thanks, Dave. Really appreciate it. Let me go ahead and share my screen. So thanks to our relationship with Rootstock, we're able to access information we normally wouldn't have access to without going to some of the folks that manage those systems, waiting for the information to come back to us, putting it in spreadsheets maybe, and then starting to assess and analyze that data and see how we can make sense of it. So we're going to use that data that Dave has just provided us as part of the overall investigation process. So we have this complaint, we've identified some potential root causes, and now we're going to zero in on what those final root causes might be. So in this case, we have a return sample product. We're taking the information that Dave has provided us, and we're developing different action plans. So in this case, if you look at the bottom portion of the screen, we have a couple of different action plans, which then, once they're completed, we'll start to kick off the actual implementation of these items within the system. Whether that's sending a notification back to Rootstock saying, hey, it's okay, we can initiate those engineering change orders, or even updating an SOP and how we handle testing of products and so forth and so on.
If you would like to request a personal demo, go to rootstock.com/demo. Thank you for your time.